Johnny Carson was seen by more people on more occasions than anyone else in television history. Over the course of 3 decades, he became a fixture of national life and the undisputed king of the late-night show, watched by 17 million people every day. Johnny welcomed over 22,000 guests. Most were polished, well-behaved, and knew how to play the game. But a few came in carrying something heavier. Some had assault charges, and some had reputations for doing things most can't imagine. These are the 8 most violent guests Johnny Carson ever had. Number 8. Robert Blake. This Emmy-winning actor spent years building a name in Hollywood, first as a child star in Our Gang, and later as the streetwise detective in Beretta. But the longer he stayed in the spotlight, the harder it became to separate the man from the roles he played. And his characters were intense, unpredictable, and simmering just beneath the surface. So was he. When Blake showed up on The Tonight Show, it wasn't just another booking. Staff were given quiet warnings. Johnny knew what to expect. If a question rubbed Blake the wrong way, the mood could shift in seconds. He didn't fake smiles or play along. He'd sit there, tight-jawed, eyes narrowing, and suddenly the whole room felt colder. There were moments when he was perfectly relaxed, funny, even warm. But it never lasted. His fuse was short. You didn't ask the wrong thing. You didn't try to steer the conversation somewhere he didn't want to go. Producers learned to tread lightly, and this wasn't just a talk show thing. Directors and crew from his film sets told the same stories. Blake could be sharp, focused, and magnetic. And he could also turn on you without warning. One actor called it walking on glass with bare feet. You never knew what kind of day it would be. Let's say that tension followed him everywhere he went, and eventually it caught up with him in the worst way. In 2001, his cute wife, Bonnie Lee Backley, was shot dead outside a restaurant in Los Angeles. Blake said he'd gone back inside for a gun he'd forgotten. Investigators weren't convinced. The trial that followed pulled his life apart in public. He was cleared in criminal court in 2005, but a civil jury later held him responsible for her death. He died in 2023 at 89 years old. By then, the career he'd spent a whole lifetime building had been eclipsed by a single, unanswered question. Number 7. Charles Grodin. Charles was rightfully remembered as the best talk show guest of all time, and thanks to a long series of hilarious interviews with the late-night king. Grodin's interviews were a curmudgeonly send-up of talk show conventions. But as they say, sometimes it got a little too real. By the time he appeared on The Tonight Show, Grodin had carved out a career playing dry, deadpan oddballs in films like The Heartbreak Kid, Midnight Run, and later, Beethoven. But when he sat across from Johnny, the energy shifted. He didn't play along with the setup. He interrupted, questioned the host, and pushed the format to its limit. There was a 1982 appearance where Grodin clashed with Carson so sharply that Johnny had to cut to a commercial just to diffuse the tension. Grodin questioned the structure of the show, mocked the flow of the interview, and made Carson visibly uncomfortable. And that was the mystery. Was it all a bit? Or was Grodin genuinely pissed off? Well, sad to say, but the answer was never clear. That was part of the problem. Some nights, it was brilliant. A satirical breakdown of celebrity interviews, where Grodin played the difficult guest to perfection. Other nights, it crossed into something colder. Edgy didn't always feel like a joke. Audiences didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or shift in their seats. Behind the scenes, staff weren't always amused. They weren't sure if Grodin would play nice or throw the whole show off balance. He wasn't threatening in the physical sense, but emotionally, he could hijack the room. There was always that sense that Johnny wasn't fully in control when Grodin was there. What made it more fascinating and super unsettling is how committed Grodin was to the bit. If it were a character, he never dropped it. Even after the show, even backstage, he'd stay in that prickly, combative mode. His style later influenced comedians like Zach Galifianakis and Between Two Ferns' absurdism, but Grodin's approach came at a time when people weren't sure how to process it. He walked the line between performance and provocation until no one knew where the line was anymore. And for The Tonight Show, that kind of tension didn't always play well under studio lights. He was a good guy, but not for King. Number 6. Charles S. Dutton. Some redemption stories feel handmade. We mean neat, polished, and shaped for interviews. Charles didn't come that way. He began in blood and prison walls, and everything after had to be earned the hard way. In 1967, at just 17 years old, Dutton was convicted of manslaughter after a street fight in Baltimore turned fatal. And he went into prison a teenager and came out 8 years later, older, tougher, but somehow not broken. The shift came in a strange place, a prison dispute over a stage play. He was assigned to read it, well, likely out of punishment. But something stuck. Something inside cracked open. From that moment, Dutton threw himself into the theater like it was a lifeline. He studied, he read, he performed, and he didn't stop once he got out. He earned a college degree, then a master's from Yale School of Drama. Yup, Yale. From there came the roles. Rock Alien 3, Broadway, Emmy nominations. Every part he played carried a weight most actors only try to mimic. For Dutton, it came from somewhere real. When he appeared on The Tonight Show, he didn't duck the past. Johnny Carson, to his credit, let the story breathe. Dutton talked about prison, and about the killing, about the time he almost gave up, and how theater, words, discipline, and expression dragged him out of the spiral. That honesty set him apart. Most guests on Carson's stage tiptoed around their darkness. Dutton walked right through his, and not with guilt or shame, but responsibility. That's rare. That's human. He went on to direct, mentor, and advocate for prison education programs, because he knew firsthand that not everyone in a cell is beyond saving. Some just haven't found their reason yet. Now in his 70s, Dutton doesn't chase fame. He doesn't need to. The work speaks. Life speaks louder. He once said prison nearly killed him, but art saved his soul. And in a list full of men who never outran their violence, Charles is the one who faced it, transformed it, and left it behind. Number 5. Buddy Rich Well. Buddy Rich didn't just play the drums. He basically attacked them. His hands moved so fast they barely looked human, blurring across the kit like something mechanical. Musicians who saw him live often said the same thing afterward. They'd never witness anything like it again. By the time he was a teenager, Rich was already considered a phenomenon. As an adult, he became something else entirely, a benchmark. Ask any serious jazz drummer who the greatest ever was, and Buddy Rich's name almost always lands first. But genius doesn't always come gently. Behind the precision and applause lived a temper that could turn a room sour in seconds. The music world knew it well. Rich was infamous for unloading on his own band members, sometimes over mistakes so small nobody else could even hear them. Years after his death, our secret recordings leaked, captured on tour buses and backstage, revealing tirades so vicious they stunned even seasoned musicians. The words weren't theatrical, they weren't playful, they were pure, unfiltered rage. That volatility followed him onto The Tonight Show. When Buddy sat across from Johnny, there was always a carefulness in the air. He could be funny, he could be charming, but there were moments when the mask slipped. On more than one appearance, Rich visibly bristled at questions he didn't like. His jaw tightened, his posture hardened, and once, in 1986, it spilled out on live television. During a performance with the Tonight Show band, a small mistake was made. something most viewers would never catch. Rich did. His face flushed, his expression darkened, and right there under studio lights he snapped, sharp, public. Carson had to guide the moment away, steering the conversation back to safer ground, the way you do when you feel a situation turning. In the industry, people learned to work around Buddy Rich, not with him. They endured the outbursts because playing behind him meant standing next to greatness. But the cost was emotional bruising that never really faded. Buddy died in 1987 at 69, his heart giving out after decades of burning both musically and personally. He left behind recordings that still humble drummers to this day, and a reputation just as permanent. A towering talent, chained to an anger he never learned to quiet. Number 4. Faye Dunaway. Faye didn't enter rooms. She dominated them. From Bonnie and Clyde onward, she projected control, elegance, and authority. But behind that composure lived something far more deadly. In 1981, and during the filming of Mommy Dearest, actress Rutanya Alda expected a staged slap. Instead, Dunaway struck her, hard, real, and without warning. It wasn't performance, it was an impact, and it wasn't isolated. Years earlier, James Woods described Dunaway hurling objects at him on set after he improvised a line. Crew members across decades told similar stories: slaps, thrown items, sudden eruptions over minor frustrations. In 1988, Bette Davis stunned Carson's audience when she named Dunaway the worst person she had ever worked with, calling her impossible and completely unprofessional. The behavior followed Dunaway well into later life. In 1996, a Broadway wig assistant had her hand slapped over how hairpins were presented. In 2019, rehearsals for Tea at 5 collapsed after reports that Dunaway struck crew members and threw objects during fittings. A scheduled performance was canceled. She was fired. Lawsuits followed, including recordings of her tirades. This wasn't youth or pressure. It was consistency. Faye built a unique career, but alongside the films runs another record, one written in bruised hands, shocked faces, and decades of people who learned too late what her temper could do. Number 3. Frank Sinatra. Frank could level a room with a single note. That voice, flawless phrasing, perfect timing, effortless control, carried him into American myth. But if the voice felt like silk, the man behind it was all edge and heat. Sinatra wasn't just a perfectionist. He was a man who demanded loyalty and burned bridges when he felt crossed. Throughout his career, there were whispers but also police reports. Punches thrown, threats made, scores settled the old-fashioned way. In 1966, he clocked a businessman at the Beverly Hills Hotel. It wasn't his first time losing his temper. It wouldn't be his last. He had a long-standing hatred for photographers, especially those who didn't ask permission. Several ended up with bruises or broken gear. Journalists who dared criticize him didn't just get angry letters. They got phone calls, sometimes visits. He made sure people knew. Frank didn't forget, and he didn't forgive easily. One of the ugliest incidents happened at Caesar's Palace in 1970. A credit dispute with casino management turned into a full-on physical confrontation. Voices were raised. Punches may have been thrown. Witnesses remember shouting, shoving, and Sinatra storming out. And the relationship never fully recovered. And when he came on The Tonight Show, he brought that same aura. Johnny Carson respected him, but also knew exactly what lines not to cross. Sinatra didn't do small talk well. If the questions got too personal or veered near old grudges, he'd shut down, eyes hard, answers short. Carson could feel it, the room tilting cold. Even off camera, Sinatra traveled with security, not just for safety, but to keep things quiet, controlled. He died in 1998 at 82. The legacy he left behind is complicated. Musically, he changed the game. His influence is permanent. But the man himself, The charm and control came with a darker streak, one that left real bruises on those who crossed him. Frank didn't care for spin. He never claimed to be perfect. And in a way, as that honesty, flawed and combustible, is part of why his image endures. He was an angel in the booth, but outside of it, he made sure people knew exactly who they were dealing with. Number 2, Sean Penn. Some actors chase intensity. Sean has always carried it. Even when he's standing still, there's a tightness to him, as something wound too far inside. On screen, that tension turned into great performances. Off screen, it kept finding darker outlets. By the mid-1980s, his talent was already obvious. So was his volatility. In 1985, he was charged after an altercation with a background actor on a film set. A year later, another assault charge followed after a nightclub fight. In 1987, he served jail time for violating probation from an earlier conviction. That same year, he struck a photographer with a rock, sending the man to the hospital. But the confrontations didn't stop there. In 1988, he was arrested on attempted murder charges after another incident involving a photographer. The charges were dropped, but the escalation was impossible to ignore. These weren't shoving matches. These were moments serious enough to shut down sets and pull police reports. When he appeared on Carson's stage in the late 80s, the tension wasn't subtle. Penn sat guarded, his jaw set. His answers clipped when the subject drifted too close to his reputation. Security wasn't decoration, it was a precaution. Penn's career flourished anyway. Hollywood kept the work flowing while the pattern followed behind him. Even today, he speaks openly about anger management. The talent never disappeared. Neither did the history. Number 1, Jim Brown. Jim never needed to raise his voice to command a room. And his silence did the work. And that's what made people uneasy. He was one of the greatest athletes to ever step onto a football field. Fast, punishing, impossible to bring down. In just 9 seasons, he broke records no one thought possible, then walked away while still on top. Hollywood called next. Action roles, quiet intensity. He brought presence everywhere he went. But that same presence shadowed something darker. In 1965, Brown was arrested for assault. That charge was dropped, but more followed. In '68, he was convicted. In '99, nearly 70 years old, he was arrested again after a domestic incident, this time convicted of vandalism and ordered into counseling. These weren't flukes. It was a pattern, ugly, persistent, and public. When he sat opposite Carson, the room held a different kind of stillness. Not fear, not tension. Something more like restraint. Carson steered the talk toward football, toward film. Never the personal, never the legal. Everyone understood the rules. Brown wasn't hostile on air, but he wasn't soft either. He carried a force that told you not to ask the wrong thing, not because he might lash out, but because you might get an answer you didn't want to hear. His legacy is as sharp as it is divided. He broke racial barriers. He elevated the position of running back. He became a symbol of black excellence in both sport and screen. But he also left behind a stack of police records that never quite disappeared from the conversation. Jim died in 2023 at 87. His records still stand. So do the questions. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.